Jade, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Supernatural Season 15 Episode 4 happened, so let's talk about that. Before I say anything though, I just want to let you guys know it took every bit of my soul to not make a video about My Chemical Romance getting back together. I was going to, but I realized the whole video would just be me being like, oh my god, My Chemical Romance is back together. But as I've mentioned before, MCR is my favorite band, and yes, I'm very excited about them being back together, in case you were wondering, so I thought I would just mention it now. Anyways, new episode, Season 15, Episode 4, Atomic Monsters, let's talk about it. So, the episode starts out with a bearded Dean in the bunker, killing a bunch of demons. You then see Dean go into a room with a bunch of people on the ground, and there's Benny, and then he dies again. And then a demon blood junkie, Sam, kills Dean, but then this turns out to be a nightmare that Sam is having. Sam goes into the kitchen, and it's obvious that Sam is taking Rowena's death pretty hard.
The past few days, you barely come out of your room.
Dean also calls himself the Meat Man, and it's honestly the best thing I've ever heard. They then go out on a case while Chuck comes to visit Becky. Sam and Dean end up thinking the dad is the vampire in the case, but after Sam finds the girl abducted, they find out it was actually Billy, their son. Sam and Dean leave the parents to call 911 for the girl, and then they go kill Billy. God, on the other hand, ends up having a writing spark, thanks to Becky, and then continues to Thanos snap Becky's entire family away. Sam and Dean have a really bittersweet combo at the end of this episode in the Impala, which hurt. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. And Chuck leaves us wondering what the hell is he planning for Sam and Dean. I really liked this episode, and I know I'm biased because I've loved every single episode so far, but I really liked this one. I think Jensen did an amazing job at directing. Hearing his debut song in the episode was also really cool, and I think it worked really nice with the show. Something I want to touch on, Jared is so good at acting. I think he does a really good job at representing Sam's feelings, especially right now. When he said, sometimes it's like I can't even breathe.
Sometimes it's like I can't even breathe.
My heart broke. I felt that. But also, I think it's good that Sam is explaining this to Dean. He's basically saying to Dean, sometimes you have to feel your feelings, because Dean doesn't want to do that. I also think just the way that Jared plays Sam and depicts his mental battle with all of his grief and his feelings he's been through and all that stuff as a character, it's just really good to see, and it's also relatable for some people, so A+ Jared Padalecki. One thing I didn't like though, there was only one mention of Cass throughout this entire episode, and it was Becky who mentioned Cass, not Dean. After the bitch fit that Dean threw last episode, I'm kind of pissed that this wasn't even mentioned at all. But it's understandable because I don't think Dean would go to Sam and be like, I miss Cass. Speaking of Becky though, I at first was like, ew, Becky. But honestly, I don't hate her, which is something I never thought I'd say. She changed, and don't get me wrong, I hated Season 7 Becky, especially considering what she did to Sam. But considering she has seemed to move on, and she seemed a little bit remorseful about the whole Sam situation, I can get past that. Her being there definitely served a purpose though. Like I said, I like seeing old characters come back, as long as it serves a purpose to the plot or the story. I think bringing Becky back worked really well with the plot because it progressed Chuck's plot and it gave us some insight as to where he stands with the whole Sam and Dean situation. Kinda wish Chuck didn't Thanos snap her whole family though, but what else was I expecting? Honestly, people are literally only coming back in this season to die, so okay. I said previously that I thought Chuck was going to screw with Sam and Dean because of the fact that he's trapped in their world. And this episode basically just confirmed that. The heaviness of the series was prominent in this episode, and that leaves me wondering what Chuck is planning and what the writers have cooked up for the end of the show. It hurts to see Dean so happy about the fact that they're finally free from God when we know that they're not. Some guesses as to what Chuck has planned. Demon Blood Sam could be a possibility, but I doubt it because Sam would have to make the conscious choice of drinking demon blood. We saw Sam in the Lucifer suit in the promo, so I have a feeling that's probably where Chuck is going to be going with this. Because God is still God, he can basically do anything and make Sam and Dean do almost anything. Not everything, but almost. Sure, he can't change the way they feel about God, but I'm sure that because Chuck is God, he can make almost anything possible, which is why it's so hard to predict what's gonna happen. Andrew Dabb said in an interview that I'll link below in the description, and I promise I won't forget to do it this time, Sam's weird dreams will play a big role in the show's 15th final season, so much that it will get a few other characters involved. I'll quote him saying, "As they keep happening more and more, I think it's going to dawn on Sam that this may be more than just PTSD, he told TV Line. Once Sam realizes what's going on here, there are a couple people he will try to reach out to. Some you may be expecting, some you may not. This, more than anything, makes me believe that what Sam is seeing is connected to what Chuck has planned for them. But it could be possible that he's also seeing another version of himself, or possibly he's seeing into the future. Sam having visions of future events is not a new thing. Back before the whole apocalypse happened, Sam used to get dreams and visions of future events, usually connected to the special children that Azazel infected with demon blood. Also, back in season 1, it was revealed in the episode Bloody Mary that Sam dreamt of Jessica's death nights before it happened. But also, Sam wasn't drinking demon blood at that time, and he isn't now either. The thing is, in Sam's dream, his eyes went black. The only time Sam's eyes ever went black when he wasn't possessed by a demon was when he was killing Lilith. Which, in order to do so, he had to drink a shit ton of demon blood. Sam also had to drink a shit ton of demon blood in order to prepare his vessel for Lucifer. But this version of Sam we saw was not possessed. It was a Sam that was hyped up on demon blood that apparently did something terrible to Bobby and Jody, and I'm gonna assume that he killed them. Apocalypse World Bobby is still in this version of Sam and Dean's world, and Jody is still alive and kicking. So that makes me worry, because those are two characters that could die and that are still around. I'm worried. This very well could be a vision of the future that Sam is seeing, or maybe he's connected to God and is getting visions of what God is planning for them and what he was writing, or maybe he's seeing an alternative version of himself, or maybe the equalizer is making God weaker while Sam's getting stronger, which is making his visions worse. Who knows? There are a lot of directions that the writers can go with this, so I'm really excited to see how this whole thing plays out. I think God's plan is to give Sam and Dean the most painful, heart-wrenching send-off, which means making Sam and Dean endure the things they regret the most. Hence why they would bring back Sam in the white suit being possessed by Lucifer, and why they would bring back Sam's demon blood addiction. Because those are both things that affected Sam and Dean in a really shitty way, you know? It makes sense. Sam seems to be in a pretty shitty spot right now mentally. He's obviously depressed, and I can see him possibly doing something irrational because of his emotions and the stakes of everything that may be at hand. Sam could make an irrational decision because of his emotions, and he could very well lead into Chuck's story, aka Demon Blood Sam, but I don't know. I would hope not. Now, obviously, these are just predictions, but I really can't think of anything else that these dreams can be unless we see more of them as the season progresses, which I don't doubt that we will. I think it's finally time to get into some predictions for this season, though. So, I've seen a lot of theories go around on how people think the show is going to end. Some people think God isn't actually God. Some people think that Sam and Dean are going to end up as archangels. Some people think that Sam and Dean are going to have a happy ending. I personally cannot tell you what I think is going to happen at the end of this show. And I honestly don't even want to try to predict it at this point. At least not until we get closer to the end, because I think trying to figure out what the last episode is going to entail right now would lead me into a rabbit hole. I want to bask in this season as much as I possibly can and overanalyze everything that I can, so I don't like being wrong. I managed to predict season 13's finale to a T, and I did a pretty good job with season 14's ending, but I didn't get everything, obviously. I did not get that whole twist with God. I was like half right. So if I can hold off on making my prediction for the end of the show, I'm going to do just that, so I can get a very detailed explanation as to what I think is going to happen when we get closer to the end. Stop asking me what I think is gonna happen at the end of Supernatural, because I don't fucking know. But we'll start with the next few episodes, though. The next episode is called Proverbs 17:3. As I said last episode, this is a Bible verse that reads, "The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart." So the meaning of this, I didn't really go into it last episode. A crucible is like a ceramic or like metal container that like metal and silvers are melted in, similar to gold in a furnace. This is basically saying that silver is meant for the crucible and the gold is meant for the furnace, meaning that these two things both have their places for refining or purification. But the Lord tests the heart. I think that line is pretty self-explanatory. The thing is, I think the meaning of this verse can be subjective depending on the way you want to look at it, like I think most Bible verses are, but it could mean that things like metal, silver, and gold can be fixed with a furnace or a crucible or whatever fancy word you want to use, but evil inside of you can only be dealt with by God. Another explanation of this verse that I found, I will throw it up on the screen. I took a screenshot of it. I found it on a site called GodTube. It's basically saying these things have their places to be purified and fixed and melted, and they can do all these things, right? But in the end, the only evil that you have to answer for is the one in your heart and for God, if that makes sense. I'm not religious. I don't know. I tried, okay? I think that this might relate to the vision we saw with Sam, but I'm not sure. The synopsis for the next episode says, Sam and Dean's routine case turns out to be anything but. The promo doesn't give us much info, and Rob Benedict is not slated on the SPN wiki for this episode. Either they don't have him listed yet, or he's not going to be in this episode. But I don't know why they would use a Bible verse related to God for an episode he isn't going to be in, unless it somehow relates to the case that they're working or something else. But because the synopsis says it's anything but their routine case, I have a feeling this episode might start off all happy-go-lucky, and then it could turn into a very dark episode, which I'm assuming is going to happen. The episode after is called Golden Time, where Cass and Rowena are both listed to make their first appearance since the emotional train wreck that was episode 3. The synopsis came out and it says, Sam and Dean are visited by an old friend. Cashdale investigates the disappearance of a local teen. I have no doubt in my mind that that old friend is Rowena, because she's slated for the episode, but I have a few ideas. Rowena could very well still be alive. Now, believe me, I think getting stabbed in the pelvis and then yeeting yourself into a hell portal is not the greatest way to stay alive. But Rowena did take in thousands of souls, and with that much power coursing through her, she very well could still be alive in hell, if you think she could have survived that fall. I can't say for sure though. Honestly, I love Rowena, but I think her death in episode 3 was perfect for her character, and it was a really good send-off for her. I think we're gonna see her maybe as a flashback or a ghost, but I can't really say for sure. Rowena did power herself up with the Book of the Damned, and souls are very powerful, so maybe there was a part of the spell that maybe she didn't tell Sam, but again, just theories. The episode I'm most worried about is the mid-season finale, episode 8 of this season, which is called Our Father Who Aren't in Heaven. God, Adam and Michael, and Eileen are all slated for this episode. My predictions? Heaven will collapse in this episode, or possibly the episode before, I don't really know. Which is why we see Eileen as a ghost in this episode and why she's slated for the episode. I believe we'll see Michael in heaven, and he might possibly want to restore heaven, considering that's probably the only place he can really turn to. But I think once he realizes how screwed heaven is with the souls and how little angels there are, I don't think he's going to try and fix heaven. He might just say screw it. I'm counting on Michael having it out with God this episode. That's something I really want to see. I think the reason why this episode is titled Our Father Who Aren't in Heaven is because Michael may be in heaven doing what he did back before the apocalypse, and God is now nowhere to be found again. And Michael is going to be pissed off because God spent more time toying with Sam and Dean than he did worrying about the archangels and the other angels that he abandoned. I said a little while ago, I think there is a small possibility that Michael may be on Sam and Dean's side with this, because it would make a lot of sense for Michael to be really pissed off at God for the apocalypse. But considering he's Michael, I doubt he'll want to work with the Winchesters, but it was a thought though. Not counting on it. Something I want to point out though, God's ending for Sam and Dean ends with Sam and Dean dying. And I think because of that, I don't think Sam and Dean are going to die at the end of the show. I could be totally wrong here because, again, I have no idea how the show is going to end. But hear me out for a sec. Now, obviously, I can't tell you exactly which way this season is going to go, but we all know that God wrote a story, and he wrote an ending for the Winchesters, and that it's also gruesome and horrible in the words of Becky.
It's awful, horrible, hopeless. You can't do this to the fans.
If God wants Sam and Dean to die, do you really think Sam and Dean won't find a way to deter from that? I'm just saying free will is always what we come back to. So, I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. Speaking of God, he's gonna be fucking with Sam and Dean in an indirect way, according to an interview with Jensen Ackles with TV Guide. I'll link it down below in the description. But Jensen said, Chuck is now starting to kind of take away little aspects of their lives in a way that is a little unexpected. You think about the way those heroes' stories are told, and they don't have time to sweat the small stuff. They don't have time to get a cold. They don't have time to go to the doctor and get a checkup. Then normal stuff starts happening with the Winchesters, and that's exactly what they'll have to start doing. He continues on and says, We start seeing Chuck slowly disable the Winchesters' mojo, and it's heavy. It's hard for them to operate in that world because they're so not used to having to live in a normal world. It's because Chuck has written them as the heroes so they don't deal with that kind of small stuff. Or is it just then we just have never seen it? All of that cool is kind of gone now, and they are trying to figure out how to deal with it in a world where they need that mojo. They need to be able to know that they can go up against a nest of vampires and be able to take out 6 or 7 each. But if they can't even take out one, that's going to be a big problem. Seeing the Winchesters do normal things sounds pretty cool. But also, if Chuck is screwing with Sam and Dean indirectly by like popping their tires and getting them sick and stuff like that, then I don't even want to know what this man has planned for Sam and Dean because I'm worried. I mean, I guess he took Becky's advice. Seeing the Winchesters deal with normal people things is nice and relatable, and it also reminds us that while Sam and Dean are giant heroes, they're still people. Anyways, I think that's all of the information I have for you guys. That's all I gotta say for Supernatural this week. I really liked this episode. I really just liked the vibe of it. I liked the hunt, even though it was kind of simple. I liked having Becky back. I liked the conversation that Sam and Dean had in the Impala. I cried my ass off. It was great. I'm excited for next episode next week. But there's some news. Apparently after the mid-season finale, Supernatural will be moving to Mondays. This kind of sucks because I work on Mondays and I usually don't get home until like 7. I should be able to watch Supernatural, but there may be a few nights where I don't get to watch it. I just want to let you guys know that when the mid-season finale does come up, I gotta figure out a new schedule because I've constantly dealt with Supernatural being on Thursdays and then having the weekends to work on my video and then posting it on like Monday or Tuesday. But I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do with that yet, so I will get back to you guys on that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I will leave my handles up on the screen over here or on the other side, whatever I choose to do when I'm editing this. All of my links are down in the description, including the interviews that I was mentioning in this video, and also my Instagram, my Twitter, and stuff like that, so go check that out. I also have Discord servers where we talk and stuff, so that's cool. So yeah, thanks. I hope you all have a great day and don't get possessed by any demons. Bye.